My dad had a philosophy when I was growing up. If our home had a guest, they'd never leave hungry. It spoke to how he himself had grown up, an understanding of what it's like to come from a troubled home. He wanted whoever was over to feel safe, comfortable, even if the stay was a brief one. He understood that one of the best ways to achieve this was with food. After all, it's hard to feel unwelcome once you've eaten a meal cooked with care. Golden Kamuy is a good show. Great, in fact. There's a reason so many people gush over it, and why the series is currently on its third season. It's a lovingly crafted work with likable characters, an interesting story, and attention to detail, especially with its portrayal of the Ainu that makes it a cut above the rest. There's a lot going on in the series, a lot to talk about, but I'd like to focus on an element which is a bit more, well, mundane. At least mundane when compared to everything else that's going on in Golden Kamuy's story, the series' depiction of food. Sugimoto, a Sherpa, and the rest love to eat. We spend a lot of time with these characters as they prepare and then consume various meals throughout the show. It's a reoccurring element throughout Golden Kamuy, and it drives home one of the series' many overarching themes. It doesn't matter where you come from. At the end of the day, all of us aren't all that different. In my opinion, food is the great unifier. It's a language unto itself that allows one a glimpse into another's background, their culture, which is experienced in such a manner that it brings people together. Again, it's hard to feel unwelcome when you've joined someone for a meal, no matter how bizarre or alien the food and situation before you might seem. During the first half of Season 1, Sugimoto didn't know what to make of a Sherpa's cooking. Everything she made seemed odd. Eating animal brains is something you kinda gotta warm up to. Yet he ate it regardless and found it delicious. The food was great, and over time, his interest regarding the traditions of what he had eaten was perked. He came to understand not only how something was made, but also its significance to the Ainu. Through a Sherpa, Sugimoto was able to experience a culture utterly alien to him, a culture that come Season 2, he had grown familiar with. He no longer second-guessed what he once found bizarre. The man had opened his mind and had grown to enjoy several traditions once foreign to him. A Sherpa's cooking wasn't odd, not anymore. It was now something Sugimoto actively looked forward to. This is what I mean by food as a language. Though it is only ever one facet of a culture, it is one anybody can experience. It demystifies the unfamiliar, makes it accessible, and more importantly, inviting. We all eat. It's one of the few things everyone has in common, no matter where you go. Like Sugimoto, if you experience something long enough, it starts to become normal. You recognize similarities, making whatever else you may learn or encounter far less strange than it may have been in the past. Throughout Golden Kamuy, we learn about the Ainu through the perspective of Sugimoto and the rest. We see how various cultures, be it the Japanese, Russians, and many others, have aspects which bear resemblance to that of the Ainu. The Japanese incorporate a lot of seafood into their diet. Same holds true for the Ainu, who are reliant upon local salmon. The details are different, sure, however the pair of cultures have common ground. Both would be comfortable sitting down to a plate of fish, bond over something familiar, which in turn makes further interaction less intimidating, less alien. Last year, I spent some time living in England for an internship, namely London. To say I, a small-town kid from the Midwest, was out of my depth would be an understatement. It took a while to get acclimated to my new setting. However, there was one thing uniquely British that allowed me to do precisely that. The chippy. Back home, we have this thing called a fish fry. Every Friday night, local bars and restaurants would serve an often all-you-can-eat meal consisting of beer-battered cod, a baked potato or fries, baked beans, dinner rolls, and coleslaw. While popping into a local London chippy, I realized fish and chips, though a bit different, was a simpler take on something I was accustomed to. It was familiar, comfortable. So for a few weeks, I made a point of getting fish and chips every Friday night until I found my groove. Adjusted. The casual conversations between patrons, the shop's smell, and so much more allowed something to click within my brain. Though the English use of "you alright" and other such terms kept throwing me off, the familiar reprieve a basket of fish gave made me realize just how much I had in common with those I found myself with. Golden Kamuy made me recall this memory. I could relate to Sugimoto and the rest as they connected their culture to that of the Ainu, since I was and had done exactly the same thing. Throughout this series, I kept being reminded of when I was a kid, of how my dad explained I'd have to eat the raw heart of the first deer I killed, and of that one time when my parents made soup from a few fish I caught. As the show progressed, the once mysterious Ainu seemed more and more, well, familiar. It would take some time, but I could conceivably make much of what a Sherpa had cooked on screen. A few substituted ingredients aside, the only thing my dish would lack is the cultural context behind it, something I'd imagine would be similar to that of my own, yet wholly unique in its own right. The food itself is a gateway to this revelation. It points out what is different, but more importantly, highlights what's the same. It compels me to learn more about the Ainu, take the glimpse I have into their culture, and grow it into something more understanding. Try to be like Sugimoto and broaden my worldview. Now, the differences between cultural cuisines is a rather broad topic. Dig deep enough and you're bound to find some sort of similarities, which is my point. However, this idea can be applied to a more personal level. What someone eats not only gives you a glimpse of where they come from, but also where they've been. In Golden Kamuy, there's a particular scene which hits different. It involves Ogata, the dead-eyed sniper, and his childhood. After Ogata's father abandoned the family, the boy's mother would come to make the same fish stew every day for years, all because said father had claimed he liked it long ago. Though it was clear the man in question would never return, she continued to make it regardless, clinging to a fragile hope which bordered on madness. As you may imagine, the boy had grown sick of the food, of his home, and of his mother. He now revolted something he once enjoyed, and had trouble eating anything similar years down the road. Just to state the obvious, Ogata had a rough upbringing. His mother had lost it, to say the least, which is difficult for any child to handle. Though I haven't killed anyone, I can empathize with the sniper in this particular instance, since I've gone through something similar. It allowed me to connect with this man I previously couldn't understand in the slightest, put me in his shoes. One of the recurring gags throughout Golden Kamuy is a Sherpa confusing miso for poop. Outside of this possibly being a pun I simply do not understand, or because it just kinda looks like poop, this actually signifies a point of growth within the Ainu girl. Eventually, she opens up and tries Sugimoto's miso in her soup, loving it instantly. Other than being a cute example of cultural exchange, as well as the concept I've spent much of the video discussing, it marks a critical point within a Sherpa's life. Assuming this series doesn't end like Ideon, because Jesus, wouldn't that be a trip? She's more than likely going to keep her taste for miso. From here on out, it's a part of her diet, something she adds to her cooking, which stems from the journey we're watching unfold. It's now a part of her background, something which tangibly impacts her cooking and marks how Sugimoto changed her life. Though a Sherpa would have still changed without the miso itself exists as a constant reminder of all that has happened. If another Ainu notices the unique flavor, the individual in question would more than likely understand that the girl had spent quite a bit of time with the Japanese, and positive time at that. With Ogata, however, one look at his distant stare and disgust towards something he ate as a child makes it clear to most something isn't quite right. By paying attention to what someone does and does not eat, their habits, you get a vague idea of what that person has been through, the life they've led. It doesn't indicate everything, much like the broader cultural examples, but it alludes to something. Is someone quick to get seconds? Well then, perhaps that individual lived in a household with several siblings. Do they call soda pop? Do they call it Coke? They're little things, sure, but you'd be surprised what you can learn about someone just by paying attention. As Golden Kamuy tends to make a point of demonstrating, It's often the little things which leave the largest impact. Having caught up to Season 3, a Sherpa won't eat miso unless it's Sugimoto's. This staple of Japanese cooking has profound meaning to her. It reminds the girl of her friend, someone she holds close. Through these little glimpses at an individual's background, one can, much like the broader cultural idea, find similarities between oneself and total strangers. Finding out you have one thing in common with someone else, even if it's just a specific taste in food, can be enough to get your foot in the door. As the late and great Anthony Bourdain once said, "Food is everything we are. It's an extension of nationalistic feeling, ethnic feeling, your personal history, your province, your region, your tribe, your grandma. It's inseparable from those from the get-go." These are the sentiments Golden Kamuy captures with its use of food. There's a profound meaning behind it which we all have experienced, even if you haven't noticed it. The dishes we see on screen are more than just excuses for food porn. They convey something, be it about the world, the characters, or the growing relationships between our motley cast. Cheetah Top in Golden Kamuy, the Ainu dish where people mince a piece of meat together as they say Cheetah Top, conveys this notion the best. Not only does it demonstrate the Ainu's more open approach to things, but it allows for more subtle, yet substantial, character growth. Those who don't bat an eye at Cheetah Top's preparation and participate are often ones who have nothing to hide. Those who are open, be it to others or about oneself. Now, that alone just speaks to the nature of one's character. However, individuals like Shirashi, to a lesser extent, and Ogata, it says a lot more. Since Season 3 is currently dedicating more time to showing us Ogata's headspace, I'd like to focus on him, since I enjoy the guy quite a bit. Sniper duels, which Golden Kamuy has quite a few of, is one of those things I love yet don't see enough of. Ogata's face also exudes the same energy as my own. I can connect with the guy, which I find terrifying. Preparing and cooking food is just as important as eating it. They're acts which help bring people together on a more personal level, since they're working towards a shared goal. Though I'm sure not everyone can say the same, I have more fond memories from cooking with someone, even when something went terribly wrong, than I do from merely eating. The mistakes, the triumphs, the banter, it all stuck with me long after I had forgotten the meal's taste. Ogata isn't a good man, but he's still human. Though he has Sugimoto, Ishirpa, and the others' backs, he isn't on their side. He keeps his distance. He's someone who hasn't had any healthy, long-lasting relationships, save for one, which he, ended. The guy is a sociopath, feels nothing when killing, and has no remorse regarding his actions. At least, that's how it appeared for a long time. With Season 3 still underway, Ogata appears to be having a crisis of conscience, the beginning of one. Though it could be a misread on my part, which can easily be the case, there's something going on, and the sniper is beginning to change. Sugimoto, Ishirpa, and the rest have had a profound impact, though it's hard to see. This is why I bring up Cheetah Top. Constantly throughout Golden Kamuy, Ogata makes a point to not say a thing when mincing the meat. He has a job to do and doesn't want to get close, yet he can't help it. We know this is the case because, come the latter portion of Season 2, Ogata drops his cold demeanor for but a second and says Cheetah Top, much to Ishirpa's delight. It's the first major instance of him opening up, something that is followed up on in Season 3, and indicates there's a modicum of guilt for what he's about to do. If he didn't care for Ishirpa in the slightest, he wouldn't have given the girl the satisfaction of saying Cheetah Top. He'd have done nothing at all the while knowing what he was about to do. Preparing and enjoying meals with the others helped break Ogata out of his shell, brought him together with the others, and created memories which are likely to linger for a long time. He changed, subtly, but that's how it often goes for most people. Spending quality time with someone, or numerous people, has an effect, and that holds especially true when you're working toward a shared goal. In a way, each dish in Golden Kamuy is like the show itself. The destination, the endpoint isn't what matters so much as what you learned, the friends you made along the way. Food is more than just something you consume for sustenance. It's a part of us, our backgrounds, our nations, our cultures. It's also something which is intrinsically social. Though you can cook for yourself, there's always another person present somewhere down the line. Be it a coworker smelling your heated leftovers, or the clerk at your local grocery store. Cooking brings people together, as does the food they create. It helps us understand, in a manner almost all enjoy, that though there are differences between us, our cuisine, there's always something in common as well. But with that said, I've been Boofire191. Tell me what you thought in the comments down below. I'll see all you guys next time. Goodbye.